Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Confidence Corner. Well, here I am in a random city, although not so random for me personally. I am in my hometown. I'm in Minnesota. I've got a speaking gig tomorrow. Hi, Kelly. Speaking gig for Minnesota Women in Banking. Hi, Carivia. So great to see you all. So tonight is about how to get promoted and really getting to the nitty gritty. And I'm going to share 3 steps with you, or let's say 3 steps, but then there's sub steps within those. But the key thing here, first of all, I'm really curious for those of you listening, what would you say that you most want to get out of this session related to getting promoted? Or maybe you're simply interested in how to ask for what you want. But that is what I focus on specifically. So let's dive into this because I've got a number of stories. I'll tell you from my experience, I have been very fortunate through the grit and the coaching from my dad, although it wasn't really coaching. It was basically just at 6 years old, he gave me a few dollars and he said at a flea market and said, go have fun, but never pay full price. So there you have it. I learned how to ask at an early age and I have been very successful in my negotiations and getting promoted several times throughout the years because I asked. And we have to remember, we have to ask. I continue to be amazed at the amount of people that don't ask. They expect, we think we want to do that. We think we should be promoted, and we probably do deserve to be promoted. But if we don't advocate for ourselves, it's going to be pretty hard to get there. Or we have to be really lucky to have an amazing boss that would help us get there. So the 3 steps I want to share with you, I'll state them all up front, and then I'll dive into an example, and then we'll dive into what each of those means specifically. The first thing is you have to face your fears. Number 1 is your mindset. Facing those fears, facing those things that get in the way. Number 2 is doing the prep work to make your case. And number 3 is the actual ask. So let's start with a story. My favorite story of mine for when I was promoted because of asking was when I was in an HR role at an architecture firm. I really loved the company, but I will tell you honestly, I was not that excited about comp and benefits and the bigger piece of HR, which is so important, but really didn't make me excited. What was exciting to me was the people part. And I know HR is, of course, all connected to the people part, but I didn't like the spreadsheets, the behind the scenes kind of work. So I decided, because we didn't have a training department, that I wanted to be the training department and I wanted to rally for myself to do that. So what I did is I first thought about, well, what do they care about? Like the number 1 thing is that I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be in charge of training, and I thought, okay, I've been testing out some of these training programs here. Like I would train on anything, how to give and receive feedback, time management, presentation skills, whatever things that I felt confident in. And what was so great is that I wrote up my whole job description of what I wanted. And then I mentioned it to my boss and I brought the case to her. But before that, so bottom line is I got the job, but I also will tell you with everything comes some cost, because she said, well, I'm happy to do this for you, but I also want you to know if we need to lay someone off, because if you're going to do this role in training under the branch of HR, I need to hire someone to do all of the other things, like making sure that payroll happens and all these very critical things. So I did go into the decision knowing that that could happen. So I wanted to say that. And full disclosure, that did happen. I did end up getting laid off, but it was right about the time that I had on my vision board to leave the company. So I'm so happy that I was able to do that. And I was able to leave earlier than I thought and move into my coaching role. But let's talk about the steps though. We got these steps. We've got to face our fears. We got to do the prep that we need to do to ask. And part of that includes knowing what you want. And then we've got the actual asking. So first of all, facing your fears. I'm grateful in my example that I didn't have a whole lot of fear around this. I had a lot of confidence that I know that I could do this job, and I was so passionate about it that it made it a lot easier for me to jump into it. Now, what I will tell you is that it sounded like I was trying to just what I won't tell you is this. No, I'm going to tell you whatever I can to help you. The first thing is to look at with your mindset, two things. One, what is your biggest fear about asking? And do some journaling about that. Or do what I call a fear script, where you act as if fear is talking to you. And you say the thing fear would say, like, I'm nervous about asking for this promotion. And then the real you would respond back to that. And you go back and forth. Well, I totally deserve to be in this role, and I'm really passionate about it. So fear, just slow your roll. But then see what fear would say back. Yeah, but you da-da-da-da. It's really interesting when you go back and forth with that fear script to help you. So that's one exercise. I also have a lot of exercises in my book called Trust Your Own Voice. So that's something to consider checking out. So one of the things about facing your fear, so that was one thing, the fear script. The other component related to your mindset is, are you confidently expecting that you're going to get the thing you want? If you're not confidently expecting it, it's going to be harder for you to get it, because once we make a decision, our brain starts creating evidence for that thing to happen. So the cool thing about that is that you're getting your whole body, mind, soul, heart on board with whatever you want to move into. So definitely focus on confident expectation that I'm going to get this. Why wouldn't I? And so when you do that, you create this great mindset ready to move into the actual prep work to make the ask. So that's step one, the mindset piece. Step two, first of all, figure out what you want. We have to decide. I am amazed, and this is a little bit of an aside, but I have a friend who's a business owner, and she was interviewing candidates to potentially be an assistant for her. Out of 10 candidates, only 7 would say what their rate was. Not that they wouldn't, but meaning 7 of those 10 women said, well, I'm not sure, or what do you think, or whatever you think is fair. We have to be clear on what we want. So be clear, be crystal clear. What are you asking for? Then, why would they care? Whoever you're asking, why would they care? If we go back to my example, I knew that because she was director of finance. I don't know why HR reported into her, but that's the way it was. And she was director of finance, so I had to think about this. Why would this matter to her? More retention. Going to save more money because the employees will feel more recognized and valued. And as a result of that, they're going to do even better work and be more motivated to do their client calls. And all of these things are connected. So think about, to your audience, why would they care that you're going to be promoted? Or why would they want to promote you? You always have to think about your audience. What matters to them? What's relevant? And how do you fit into that? And your job as the person communicating that is to show them how you fit into that. Make it impossible, as one of my old bosses said, make it impossible for me to say no. If you are in that place, you make it impossible for them to say no. You build your case, you make your case. It's going to be so powerful when you do it that way that's relevant to your audience. Anything related to efficiency and money are fabulous things to use as making your case. Everybody cares about time and money. Saving more time, making more money. Okay, that is the prep. Now, the other piece about the prep is you've got to know what the point or the lead of your story is going to be. What's an example that you could use to start the conversation? Or thinking about what is it that maybe there's a reference, something that recently happened, or when we worked on that project last year, here's the thing that really came out of that for me. I wanted to share and celebrate some of my wins with that and how they made the company more money or saved us more time. Always think about what you're doing related to the impact that you're making and how that is relevant to the audience. So once you have the prep done and you're ready, make the ask and make it directly. The biggest mistake I see is that people don't make a direct ask. They say something like, well, if you think this is a good fit, or if you think this is something you'd want to talk about. There's this if thing that we say before. We have to ask directly. Could we talk about this further? Now that you've heard my interests and passion and how I think it could save money for the company, could we have another conversation about this? Or just simply straight up, what do you think? Is this realistic? And maybe not even say, is this realistic? Because that you don't want to question yourself, but maybe you could say something like, how does this land for you? How do you think that this connects to the company and the company goals? Anything like that, but something more direct. Or can we create a plan to make this happen? And if you don't think that I'm in the right, but basically help me understand why. If it's a no, I'd love to understand more. What concerns do you have about me? What is going on in the company that is happening maybe I don't even know about, that you know about? If you're open to telling me that, or if we could talk about that. But get them to say a yes or no. You don't want to leave that meeting with this nebulous, well, if you're interested. That kind of thing is going to be passive language that is not going to help you. And I'll end with this story about my career. One of the times I'm not proud of. I made a very passive ask. And this was when I was asked to be on a leadership team. Very excited and honored to be asked to be on the leadership team. Mentioned to my boss, hey, everybody else, note what I said. Everybody else is a director or above, and I'm a senior manager. So what does that mean for me? Very passive. And then she said, oh, yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Well, fast forward 2 months later, after being on the leadership team, making contributions, she says to me, when at my review, I'm obviously looking very disappointed because I did not get a promotion. I assumed I was getting one, which, first of all, bad things happen when we assume. And she could tell I wasn't looking so great. And she said, what's wrong? And I said, I thought I was going to be promoted. And she goes, oh, I don't even remember that conversation. Oh, that just killed me. But then we both laughed about it. And I said, okay, here's what I would have done differently. Hey, Tia, good to see you. Talking about getting promoted and what to do about it. So here's what happened. I said, look, if I could have done that differently, what I would have done is I would have said, hey there, I want to be a director. How do I make that happen? And can you support me in this promotion? If it's not something that is doable right now, what can we do about that? Or, hey, I want to mention that I am doing this work on the leadership team, so I'd like to be promoted, or at least I'd like to look at my title and talk about this with you. When could we do that? I'd like to create a plan. If you don't think I'm ready now, what would you suggest that I do differently? And really get specific about how your boss can help you, and take the ownership of, hey, I just want you to know this is my goal. I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen. I know that I need your buy-in. I hope that you'd support me, and I'd like to know that. Would you support me? And this is a great example of being direct. Don't just say, I'd like you to support me. I hope you support me. But say, I'd like this to happen. Is that realistic? What could we do moving that forward? I'm very fired up about this. And hi, the puppy. Hi there. I'm very fired up about making a direct ask. So let's review how to get promoted. First thing out of these three, and you can go back and listen to this for those of you that weren't here earlier, but the mindset, got to know that, facing your fears, you got to prep, figure out why this matters to your audience, and then ask directly versus passively. So that's it for me tonight, folks, with the Confidence Corner coming to you live from St. Paul, Minnesota. It's a little hard to see out the window here, but here we are. I've got a big speaking engagement tomorrow, so I wanted to make sure that I could be here and help you to get promoted. Let me know how it goes.